Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the next TGIK Games design session with me, Chris. It is very early on a Saturday morning, and you may notice that my face is not on this particular stream because my camera, for some reason, will not connect to my streaming software. So, technical difficulties aside, what are we working on today? Now, I have to pack up and leave in 30 minutes, so I'm not going to make progress on, I'm going to walk you through a new game or another project and that we haven't talked about before and give you a sense of what this is about. And yeah, then we'll start. Well, a lot of work is done anyway, but already. But anyway, enough rambling. It's too early. Look, I even have prototype build ready to go. So anyway, this game is a deck builder. It features some worker placement, and the story of the game is we as the players, we have crystal shops, and in those crystal shops we have workers. The workers are going to be spending time doing things like purchasing uh, crystal powders, purchasing crystals, the looking for crystals out in nature. And the idea is there will be orders of crystals. So we have shops, and we have shops of our own that we can sell out of. Um, let's call it this. We have workshops of our own that we can work out of. And out of our workshops, we supply either retail stores or we can directly fulfill some contracts. Um, to fulfill these contracts, our workers, they will be building crystals, they will be buying crystal parts to make more powerful crystals. Now, here's where the special sauce comes in. The special sauce comes in with the way crystals work is, let's see if I can find uh, crystals. Okay. Okay. The general idea, so we're going to be looking at point C, or section C. Here's the special sauce. When you purchase a crystal, you add it to your deck. We're calling this a deck injector game. So, deck injector game. And the idea is when you purchase a crystal, you then gain that crystal's power and you will mark it on your board somewhere on a tableau. And you will have that power. Power is not guaranteed on crystals. Uh, they're variable lengths of time. So what will happen is when you buy a crystal, it goes to your discard pile right away. As long as it's in your discard pile or in your deck, so I buy a card, it goes into my discard, I have that crystal's power. Over time, I'll be drawing cards. When I draw that card, that's when the crystal's power goes away. So this is a game where drawing cards isn't necessarily something that you want to be doing, because drawing cards just gets you closer to the idea that uh, you're going to lose a crystal from your tableau. So that creates some problems. That creates problems like unfairness with, you're kind of subject to the shuffle, and maybe that card ends up on top, and you only had that turn for you only had a certain crystal for a short amount of time. That's why there are notes like this. Maybe there should be a built-in recharge. Um, Players can purchase insurance, things like that. I'm not going to go into the details. It's March 11th. I did all this during the Super Bowl. And I'm just getting it to you guys now, which is a shame because I'm really excited about this game. It's a concept that I think is interesting and different in the world of deck builders, and it incorporates what's that stuff called? Worker placement, which usually goes over well with the crowd. So let's let's look at the flow here. Kind of give an idea of what's supposed to be going on. So players are going to have their shops. We're going to call them workshops. Workers will all start in the shop, and then workers can purchase basic supplies from warehouses. In those warehouses, um, a player's token will be added to a crystal pool, and they'll gain a card to add to the discard pile, as we discussed. Players will then need to move a worker to the warehouse to purchase those supplies. So there's kind of a physical timing element to it. I guess would it be timing? I don't know. At least there's a representation of time where workers have to go back and forth from one place to another. In order to move, players need to discard a card from their hand to move a worker. So the generic card, and if you're following along on the real-time strategy game, this is exactly the same system as far as generic cards go. I can see the artwork already. It's going to be it'll be an hourglass, and those would be like the crystal powder. So crystal powder is the most basic form of a resource in this game, and the crystal powder is stored in hourglasses. And I think as we go forward, the best way to think about how these crystals work is you're purchasing the energy of these cards. So having the cards around, or having the crystals or the powder or the full-grown crystals, it gives your apprentices, your workers, a chance to draw the energy from and produce these crystals. Um, the thing that can change is who we are thematically within the game. Like right now, there's workers, and those might be the apprentices, or I don't know how to like incorporate the players themselves into the game. Like working, the storytelling needs to be worked on, but that's not important. So just kind of if I jump all like from one spot to another on that, just go with me. We'll land on something solid sooner or later. Uh, so in order to move, players need to discard a card from the hand to move workers. So I have all my workers start in my workshop, and I need to go to the warehouse to get supplies. I'm going to discard a card that has one of the hourglasses on it, and then I can move my worker from the workshop to the warehouse. Uh, if I want to purchase an item, I need to discard a card to purchase an item. Simple as that. You may notice that the number of cards in your hand is starting to dwindle. Players can get as many supplies as they have workers if they discard one card. Actually, I think this may have changed. Okay, so we're gonna skip this point 5 for now because I think that changed in a second set of notes I did. Um, when workers are in the workshop, they can research, they can construct, and they can read. So if you're researching, it makes um, creates better crystals. Um, it can create it can create permanent crystals. Um, I'm kind of playing around with the idea of as crystals get created, they can either be added to your supply as a permanent, or they can be as a semi like a discard permanent, I should say, or they can be sold to other players as a full-time permanent. I have a problem with that because they aren't necessarily like there's a logic hole in there. Like why would they be full permanent for somebody else and not full permanent for me? It's really a question of motivation at that point because if I create a crystal and it's full-time permanent, why would I not always just keep it for myself? It's a method of creating interaction, and I have no problem presenting it that way straight up, but um, I feel like we're early enough in the process that I can kind of be skeptical of that mechanic, thematic, that thematic mechanic. I don't know. Uh, I feel like we can be skeptical of that idea at this moment, so we'll come back to that one. Okay, so anyways, our workers create crystals, and then those crystals can then be sold to somebody else. Simple as that. Construction. Um, this is faster, and these are not permanent. Am I mixing up my own thing? So research, construction. I guess with research, this is really about access to better crystals. Maybe it's a good thing I wait a month and a half to actually present these things. Then I can see my idea holes. Construction, this is just no thinking, more building. Ooh, higher volume. I like that. So research, you're pushing the envelope of crystal creation, and so you get to move along the kind of the yet to be created track of crystal abilities. And then construction is just, okay, well, we know how to build this red crystal, so we're just going to build, and then we're going to put them out in the open market. All right, I like that idea. Read, this is where workers can learn different skills and gain worker-specific cards. So we'll get to the cards in a moment. Workers can go to the wild to look for crystals. So there will be caves. So there's a board that workers will be moving around, and workers will roll. One of the actions is workers will go out into one of the caves, and players will roll a d6. For each worker in a cave, a player gets a +1 to represent, hey, we have more people in here, so our chances of finding a crystal are higher. I think players also get a +1 for each card they discard to take this action. The idea is kind of like you're spending more time to search. The problem is this feels like an artificial application of time. I want to limit the number of things that cards represent. Let me say that again without saying things so definitively. I want to limit the amount of abstraction that these cards need to represent. Right now they just represent time in the form of just time, like the hourglass that we spoke about earlier, or when we get to the worker actions, they'll just represent the idea that a worker has a special action. It still represents time, it's just with time plus action. So, no, strike that. They represent time, they represent an action like a specific action that fits into that time. So it's basically the same thing, but just more specific. I hope that made sense. So, I think this has got to go. Yeah, okay. Different caves have different search scores. So I think there can be different d6s, and I think you can do like transparent dice on this one. This will be like pretty dice. Pretty transparent dice. Okay. Players can draw cards, so as a free action, players can draw up to their hand limit. This will start at 5 and increase with research. Players can fulfill orders, so there will be orders on the board. Endgame, I have no clue for endgame about this, no clue. I've even started wow, I got a lot farther on the prototype build than I thought. Okay, so let's get to the workers because people like worker placement. Oh, do I have worker actions? That's actually a bigger question. Items, playing cards. Nope. Nope. I don't have any worker actions. Yeah. Some worker training that will allow for different kinds of cards in the deck. That should. Okay. Well, we have an item for our to-do list. What are we on here? 16. 16. To do worker actions. So that's really all I have to share on this morning. You have a rough idea what's going on. you're building crystals, you have workers, you need to move the workers around this little area of town so that they can get supplies, so that they can sell their goods so they can fulfill orders. They can go search for crystals, and the way crystals work is you gain the power as soon as you buy it, but drawing cards into your hand isn't necessarily a good thing, at least not early on. However, you can mitigate the idea of losing power of your crystals through insurance or through recharges. So there's ways to mitigate that. Um, I think some concerns I have right now are kind of the variability in the early game of losing crystal power. So I'm a little worried there. Um, I think, am I out of water? No, I'm not. Good. Other than that, I really don't have any other concerns. Maybe maybe there are some bits that aren't quite fleshed out, like I'm surprised. Do I have um I don't have any like worker actions, so I need to do uh, worker actions, and I really need to think about kind of deck variability, but don't lose time concept. So actions need to equal time. Actions need to stay true to time. That's a better way to put it. So there you have it. Yeah, it's interesting. I wish you could see my face because I'm kind of a little bewildered. Like, feel like there should be more to this. Um, I feel like I feel like there are plenty of games that do stuff like this. I mean, at its base, this is I get supplies, I build stuff, I make it better, fulfill orders. There's lots of games that do that. Is this idea of deck building plus worker placement, worker movement, with diminishing resources enough of a special sauce to be different? I don't know. Um, that's actually a really important question to figure out, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, sure, I could go look at all the different deck builders out there, but that's not exactly a good use of time. Um, just because I don't know everything that's out there. I think I'm gonna start out can't speak. I'm going to have to start asking around to see what other people think, if this is enough of a difference compared to their experiences of playing games like this, that it's its own thing, that it would stand out on the shelf. So yeah, okay, enough dragging this out. Thank you for hanging out this morning. Again, my name is Chris Renshaw. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube at TGIK Games, as TGIK Games. Just search it, you'll find it. If you want to follow our podcast, it's Cardboard Architects. It's on iTunes, Stitcher. Um, it's also on Libsyn if you want to go get the direct download. Um, yeah, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.